Let's start. So my name is Elad Siklik. I'm the Group Program Manager for Data Quality Services, part of SQL Server. I want to first thank you for taking the time and taking the week off from your families and your work and coming here to TechEd. It means a lot to us, so thank you for that. And especially a personal thank you for taking the time to come to my session here. I know there's a whole bunch of sessions there, so thank you for taking the time to come here. So what we're going to talk about in the next hour or so is about data quality. Now, how much time have you been spending, or your business users are spending, making sure that the data that you're looking at is meaningful, is right, has quality? How many times you look at dozens of store procedures, some are 20 years old, that you need to play around with and tweak. You don't have any idea what they mean. They are called store procedure X_1.3.y. No one in the company knows how to maintain them, but you still have to run them and use them because they do something around data quality that nobody knows anything about. How many times your BI folks look at a report and complain, look at the crap you're giving me. Okay, I'm trying to look at a sales analysis, and there's food and beverages, and there's food plus beverages, and there's food and beverage because somebody put it with a typo, and there's food and beverage without the S, and they say, what the heck do you want me to do with this BI report? We've built a great data warehouse, everything is fine, but the data is, as we say, garbage in, garbage out. Or I have a sales report based on the sports section that my company deals with, and we'll get back to the example later on. And there's baseball and basketball and football, which are great, and then there's MLB and NBA. Do they belong in baseball and basketball, or are they different entries? What should I do with it? So basically, data quality services fixes this problem. The problem goes away, the problem is solved. I can go out, let you buy SQL Server and find out for yourself. But as I flew all the way from Israel, so I'll spend the next hour or so showing you some demos, mostly some demos on how this is done and what can you do to make life easier for you and your data experts. So what's data quality? Data quality can be measured by a whole number of dimensions. There's books on DQ dimensions, accuracy, completeness, consistency, conformity, whatever. But in a sense, data quality means that the data is suitable for its usage. If you're interested in splitting basketball from NBA, then the data is correct. If not, then the data is incorrect. Okay? And there's a whole bunch of data quality tools out there that cost from millions, and then you pay more millions to ISVs to help assimilate in your organization, and then it takes 6 months for the first results to come out. But the best technology in the world and the best process in the world will not help you. You need the sacred triad of people, technology, and a process. Okay? And we're trying with data quality services to help more people do data quality, make the technology easy to use and still very sophisticated, and using it allow you to create processes that control and govern your data quality in the organization. And in a sense, bad data is bad business. I could put a lot of quotes here from Gartner on $600 billion of bad business. There's a tweet I just read this morning for somebody saying that someone in TechEd, that he got his receipt from buying something, and it's the wrong book, the wrong person name, the wrong address, the wrong anything. He's amazed that he actually got the book. But in a sense, and I think we can share this axiom, bad data is bad business. And there are a lot of common data quality issues. You know most of them. I integrated two systems together. One had gender code, MF undefined. One had, I hope it's undefined and not a third gender. One had 0, 1, and 2, and now I have inconsistency in my data. I have 20% of my customers' last name as blank because they were stupid enough to mark last name in the first name row and have both of them there. I have zip codes that are not missing but are completely invalid. Okay. I have duplications in my data. I have a Jack Ryan and a John Ryan and John Ryan Jr., all supposedly representing the same person in my data, and I have 3 copies of the same data. Okay. Are there duplicates? Are they unique? How do I know that things? And any data quality solution that you have out there will do most of what the circle here is showing. There's obviously cleansing, which is the classic data quality. I want to amend, I want to correct, I want to enrich my data that is either incorrect or missing some values. And that would be sometimes called correction, sometimes it would be called cleansing and standardization. There's matching. Matching is the ability to identify and link those entities that are related. Okay? Sometimes it's complex matching rules. There's some fuzzy logic involved in there at sometimes. But it's the ability to deduplicate my data in a sense. And then there's the left-hand side, which is the things governing the process. There's profiling, which analyzes my data to tell me where should I invest time. Maybe I'm going to embark on a 3 months long data quality process, but I don't need it because my data is 99.9 accurate. So I might as well have some profiling information ahead of time to know where I should invest and where I'm good. And monitoring. I want some ability to track and monitor the quality of the data. How am I doing? How am I progressing? Is anything I'm doing successful? Okay? So these are all common data quality solutions. Almost every solution that you find out there will get those four in some sort of shape or form. So what's DQS? Data quality services is, and the emphasis is on a knowledge-driven data quality solution. Okay, it's a solution that is based on knowledge, and we'll show you what does that mean in a minute. And it allows IT pros and data stewards, data analysts, business users to easily improve the quality of their data. So it's not just for an IT developer type of person that has a Visual Studio type of interface to play around with. It's IT and business users. And we're going to focus in this session on knowledge. I'm going to show you how knowledge helps me clean my data, and how to create knowledge, and how to expand knowledge, and how to use knowledge that is outside of my organization in order to improve my data quality. So the first thing we need to mention when we talk about data quality services, or DQS, is that it is based on something that we call DQKB, a data quality knowledge base. This is, in a sense, a container that knows everything there is to know about your data. It contains data domains that capture the semantics of your data. It's not just statistic algorithms that play around with strings that are similar. It is about knowledge. So if I have a place called Tom's Restaurant and I have a place called Tom's Diner, okay, then I should know that diner and restaurant are the same thing, or potentially the same thing. Okay, if I have a Richard and a Dick as a first name, the knowledge would indicate that those two are synonyms. And Richard Ryan and Dick Ryan can potentially be the same people. Or address book titles. Okay? I have principal, group, program manager. Okay, what does that mean? So a knowledge base is comprised of domains that are data types. They represent the semantic understanding of your data. And you can create them manually. But the nice thing about DQS is that it's a learning system. The more knowledge you put into the system, the more data it sees, the better it becomes. It's a computer-guided knowledge discovery process that helps you build your knowledge base the more data you put into it. You can give it a data sample containing some records of your organization data, and it will discover knowledge by itself, or help you discover knowledge, and we'll see it in a minute. And it's completely open and extendable from a knowledge perspective. You can put in your user-generated knowledge, your organizational knowledge, and this is one of the major strengths of DQS, you can combine it with third-party reference data providers. If you're dealing with company names or company information and there's a Dun & Bradstreet out there, you don't need anything. All you need to do is hook that domain to a Dun & Bradstreet and have them clean your data for you. If you're cleaning addresses in the United States, all you need to do is hook that domain to Melissa Data or Address Doctor or whoever knows how to clean addresses, and DQS will know how to use that information. And everything around here we'll see in a minute. And it's very easy to use. It's a compelling user experience designed for productivity, not necessarily for a developer that knows how to code or knows how to code store procedures. Any person who knows anything about the data can go ahead and play with this. Okay. And those principles were what we had in mind when we thought about the end goal. The end goal was to make data quality approachable to everyone. Okay. You can improve your data quality, you can clean your data, you can gain some confidence in your enterprise data, unlike the Excel file that I showed a couple of minutes earlier. And you can share the responsibility. You no longer have to sit in the bottom of the food chain at the data warehouse entrance, or even beyond that when the BI users start complaining that the reports are wrong. You can be proactive and push the data quality up the stream, which is what we repeatedly heard from any IT professional that we talked about that is interested in data quality. How do I get the barriers for data quality removed? Okay, how do I empower the business user while I govern the process? How do I empower them to help me do my job and get the data consistent and controlled and confident and right. So you can empower the business users, and I think one of the things that you'll see here, you can see data quality results in virtually or physically minutes. Okay, from the moment I open the tool and start working, it takes minutes to get the initial results. Now, naturally, the more time you invest, the better data quality becomes. But from setup to some time to results, it can be minutes. And I'll show it in 3 minutes exactly. So how does it work in a nutshell? So the first part, as we mentioned earlier, is building your knowledge base. Okay, you can build it from your enterprise data. You can build it from a set of reference data that you have in your org, the list of valid titles or the valid levels of people in your organization, a list of employees. And you can use cloud services. You can use third-party data, third-party IP to build your knowledge base. So you discover and you explore and you connect all those things to your knowledge base and you manage your knowledge. And once you're satisfied with your knowledge base, you can go ahead and do data quality projects. You can correct, you can standardize, you can match, you can deduplicate your data based on that knowledge base. And throughout the process, you have what we call integrated profiling. You have bells and whistles showing you where you need to go, what you need to do, where you need to invest. Am I doing the right thing right now? Is what I'm doing going to be completely useless and I should stop it now and do something else because there's not going to be any progress if I stay on this track? So instead of going over the high-level scenarios, let's just start by a quick demo. So to set this up, I work as a data analyst for a major service provider that caters for most of the professional sports team in the United States. And I'm starting to look at a sales report that I prepared in Excel, in pivot table. And as you can see, I have a bunch of reports here. All of them are pretty much meaningless. I'm looking at the total sales cut by sport, and there's basketball and MLB and NBA and football and basketball, and I have no idea if this is the right results or not. Looking at type, which we showed earlier, so there's basically we provide music services and food and beverage services, but how do they add up? Now I need to go and do some manual work in it, and I don't want to do that. I want to clean the data in the source. And looking at sales by team, let's say all my accounts are the different sports teams, then I filtered by basketball, then there's the Denver Nuggets, the Boston Celtics, the Dallas Mavericks, and once again the Mavericks here, and the Boston Celtic here. Somebody probably put it by mistake, and I have no way of knowing what the real picture is. So I want to clean my data with data quality services. So I'm going to pop up the data quality services client. That's the client experience that we have. And looking at the recent knowledge bases that there are, I can see that there's something called out-of-the-box sports knowledge base. Because data quality services comes with a lot of out-of-the-box content. Not necessarily for sports, but for places, for names, for a bunch of things. DQS comes with content. And what content that we, as Microsoft, will not provide will be enhanced later on by other people working with this tool, because you can export and import knowledge into it. So let's take a look at what this thing is. So I'll open it for domain management. So we'll see what is this mysterious sports knowledge base. Okay. So it contains a list of data domains that someone, in this case me, thought may be potentially relevant for anybody who works with sports data. Okay, so there's account ID, okay, which let's say this is a knowledge base for my specific company that my IT professional made for me. So account ID contains a set of validation rules that are specific for my company. This is organizational knowledge. Length should be between 3 and 9. And scrolling down, it should conform to a regular expression that contains A and a bunch of numbers, which is what someone in my organization decided that an account ID should look like. Oh, well, good enough. Okay. I can look at a country. Country is a generic domain that actually Microsoft provided, and it contains a list of all the different countries in the world and all the different shapes and forms and writing styles and codes and 2-letter codes and 3-letter codes, and in case the original is in Arabic, then in Arabic and whatnot. It was just a list of all the countries in the world. Okay, good enough. Looking at team names, okay, again, this is organizational knowledge, contains a list of all the valid teams in my world, which is sports teams. That's my knowledge in this case. okay, which is all very nice and cozy. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a new knowledge base based on that I'm going to use for my work. I don't want to harm the out-of-the-box master knowledge base, so I'll create a new knowledge base. And we'll call it TechEd Demo Live, and I'll create it from the knowledge base that you just saw. Out-of-the-box sport knowledge base. And I'm going to do something with it called knowledge discovery. I'm going to try to enhance that generic knowledge base, or that knowledge base is somebody created in my organization, with my specific data. So it now creates a copy of this knowledge base. And now I'm starting a discovery process, in which all I need to do is specify the table that I'm interested in, which is going to be an Excel file that I prepared in advance called DQS TechEd Sample. Let's take a look at it. So it's basically a list that I took from my CRM or from any other file that I could see that contains all the relevant sales information that I'm basing my reports on. There's account ID and date and revenue type and artist and song if in case it's a song, and city and home arena and whatnot. And I'm going to map the things that I want to learn and improve to data domains. So I have team name, which is the home team, and I'm going to map this one. And I have team type, which is the source name for what you'd call sports type, NBA, basketball, all that stuff. And I have revenue type, which is music and food, etc. And there's no domain related to it because nobody thought that I'd be interested in it. So I'll just create it on the fly, create a new domain called revenue type, and add it to my knowledge base. I'm going to hit next. And I'm going to start the discovery process. I'm going to let DQS see what does it know to teach me about my sample. So it's a very small sample. It should take a couple of seconds. We're all but done. In the bottom section here, I can see some initial profiling information on that sample. How many unique values do I have? How many new values I have compared to what is already known in the knowledge and in the knowledge base. And for example, in here it says, look, there's only 1% of new values. I'm not sure that it's worthy even trying to do knowledge discovery because you won't learn anything meaningful. I can decide, yeah, well, let's not bother with it. Obviously, with 80 records, it's meaningless. But if you're talking about a process that involves 1 million records, then knowing this in advance is something that's very useful. So let's look at what we found out. So in revenue type, the system found food and beverages and already corrected a typo there that was found in one of my records, in my sample, and corrected it, and I'm very happy about that. Now there's music and songs here, and I think they are the same thing. They represent the same entity from a business perspective. So I'm going to just link them together and say that songs and music represent the same category, the same revenue type in my mind. Looking at sports types, then it found MLB and NBA in my data. Now I know that there are other values in my data, so I look at all the data, not just things that came from the sample. And I can see baseball, basketball, football, and I'm going to do the same linkage that I did before. I'm going to link basketball and NBA and baseball and MLB. I'm sorry, I'm a rabid sports fan, so most of the examples are around sports. We'll do some music later on, so stay tuned. And seeing that there are some kind of mistakes here that are very common, so I'll just go ahead and add NFL as well. And just tie it to football. And I'm very happy about that. And team name, well, I found a new one. Somebody who built the knowledge base did not like the Arizona Cardinals or did not know about them. So I'll mark it as correct and add it to the knowledge base. And I'm going to finish and publish this knowledge base. This is the new knowledge base that I'm going to be using or other folks are going to be using to clean these sort of data or these types of data sources. Now, what do I have to do now that I already prepared my knowledge base? I can do some cleansing. So let's do a new data quality project. I think project is a big word for what we're doing here. So we'll call it DQS TechEd Demo Live. And I'll use the new knowledge base that I just created, TechEd Demo Live. I can see the list of all the domains that it has, including the one that I just opened. And I'll do cleansing with it. Okay, so now I need to provide the actual source that I want to clean. So it could be a SQL Server table, but let's take an Excel file, because I don't know anything about SQL and I don't want to start building an SSIS package to take the Excel and import it into a SQL or use SSMS or something. I'll just use the Excel file, and I'll find the DQS TechEd. This time it's not a sample, it's a file in a similar shape or form. You can take a look at it. Contains the same type of thing, just a bit more data. And I will do mapping on the things that are interesting for me. So account ID is something that I want to validate, let's say. And I have home team, mapping it to my team name. And I'll have revenue type. And I'll have team type. Team sports type. I'm going to hit next. And now I'm going to start a cleansing project. Now the same concept holds. Right now the system uploads the Excel values into memory and starts running all the processing on it. This time the profiling information is not just about completeness, it also has some information about accuracy. Okay, how many values were correct or corrected, how many values have been suggested by the system as part of the cleansing project, and how many values are new, how many values are invalid. You can take a look and see what's going on. Bear in mind that this could be a million records and the process could take a while, so it's good to see where I'm standing and how good that is. Now let's take a look at the output of the cleansing project. So account ID I found through three invalid records. Okay, those three records failed the validation rule. The validation rule said that it should be between 3 and 9 letters long and should contain a or number. So those three failed. Okay. Looking at revenue types, then I had 4 corrections. Okay. I had songs and music, which is the 4th one, which was the reason is corrected to leading value because, as you remember in discovery, I marked those two together. I said that songs and music are the same, therefore it's 100% confident that this is indeed the same value. And there was a bunch of corrections that the system found based on some algorithms that it ran, DQS cleansing. I can go ahead and look at the specific records if I want to make sure that it's indeed related to food. Well, sounds good enough. And the confidence is very high, so the system puts it in the corrected tab. It assumes that this is correct. You can obviously control the threshold. The more you trust the system, the lower this confidence could be. You can say, look, if DQS thinks that it's right in 70%, well, it's most likely right. You can put it at 100%. Unless I explicitly said that this correction is approved, don't bother correcting it for me. And there's one suggestion. There's a new value called musical that appeared in 2 of my records, in the real records. I haven't seen it before in my samples. Okay? And the system suggests to correct it to music. Go ahead and say, let's take a look at the actual records. Musical, yes, there was songs related to that, Boyzone or whatnot. Yes, makes sense. I will approve this correction. It moved to the corrected. And now this value was corrected manually by me as part of the cleansing. Let's take a look at sports type. So sports type, there were 19 NBAs corrected to basketball. That's all jolly good. And team name, there were a bunch of corrections done. There was Boston Celtic typo, there was Denver Nuggets typo, Mavericks, and Giants, which was corrected to New York Giants. And how was it corrected to a New York Giants? There are actually 2 professional sports teams in the US called the Giants. There's the New York Giants and the San Francisco Giants. But I've built a composite domain rule that allows you to define what the correction should be based on some other information. In this case, it's the state that is being played at. So if it's New Jersey, please correct it to New York Giants. If it's San Francisco, California, please correct it to San Francisco Giants. So I can build a set of business rules, okay, I can build a set of business rules that govern more than just a single column in my data, and I'll show it later on how it's done. I can create complex business rules as much as I want and help data quality services understand what's the correct form. I'm basically building knowledge. This is a knowledge-driven solution. So it's not just statistics correction like Denver Nuggets, which any very simple algorithm could find. It's things that no algorithm could find. Somebody needs to tell me the Giants that are playing in New York equals New York Giants, or in this case, Giants that are playing in New Jersey. There are also a couple of suggestions here, Diamondbacks, Timberwolves, Trailblazers. I'm going ahead and approve all of them. And all I need to do now is hit next. I can go ahead and preview all the different results and the confidence level and everything that happened in the data. I can choose what I want to export, whether I want to export all the reasoning behind those decisions or just the raw decisions. In this case, I will just go ahead and output to a CSV file and call it can browse and everything. I'll just go ahead and export, and I'm done. So I've actually prepared, or pre-prepared, a clean Excel based on those outputs to save us the time. Sorry, that's the output. DQS clean. So we can compare the two. So this is the total sales by sport after I cleaned the data, after I marked NBA as basketball and after I marked MLB as something else. If you want to remember the previous one, and this was the original, and this is the clean one, which makes it a lot easier to understand where my money is coming from. If I'm looking at type, which is very easy to see, and here we have a bunch of, pardon my French, crap. After DQS finished running the data, well, that's very simple. That's something I can read. 74% music, 26% food. I know where to invest. And I'm going to invest in music. Let's wait a minute, and I'm going to do some more deep dive on music to see which parts of music are more interesting. Looking at team, when this was the original, you remember that. Now the corrected value. The Mavericks now popped up in number 3 spot because all the different instances of Mavericks and Dallas Mavericks and typos and whatnot were coalesced together, and now I have one clean report to look at. So basically in 5 minutes, I could get my data cleansed based on some knowledge base that somebody prepared, but preparing it is very, very simple. It contained a list of basically team names, and that's pretty much it. So back to the presentation, and we should get back to some more demos in a couple of minutes. We saw knowledge management, okay, how to create and manage data quality knowledge bases. We saw how to discover knowledge for my samples, for my organization samples. You can just plug a sample and let the system play with it and see what it can find. And the bigger the sample, the better the results will be, obviously. And we will soon see third-party reference data. And we did some cleansing, some correction and standardization of forms of the data. And we'll see deduplication in a minute. And administration was basically a set of tools to monitor and control what's going on with my data that, again, I will show later on. So what did we see? We saw a knowledge base. Okay. A knowledge base is built of data domains or composite data domains, which govern a set of different entities. It could be a composite domain called address, which contain address line, city, state, zip. It could be a composite domain called name, which is salutation, first name, last name, and I don't know what else. And there's what is called the matching policy, which we'll show in a minute, which governs how do I know which identities are a match and how to define that. And we'll see that in the matching demo. And each domain represents a data type and contains a list of values. This is my organization knowledge. Containing all the rules and relations. Music is similar to songs, and it should be between 8 to 25 characters long. And the connectivity to third-party reference data. So just a short glimpse of how it looks from the back end before we go back to the experiences. So the DQ server comes as an integrated part of SQL Server. When you buy a SQL Server Denali box, you get DQ Server in it. The next CTP that should come out within a month or two will contain DQS. And in it, there's knowledge bases. There's common knowledge bases that Microsoft put out of the box for you to use. And there's your knowledge base store that you've created and published so other people in your organization can play around with. And to build them, you use knowledge discovery, you use data profiling, you use data exploration, a bunch of flows that the data quality engine supports. Once you've built your knowledge base, you can go ahead and do data quality projects. Okay, it could be cleansing, it could be matching, and these are stored in the data quality active projects repository. Once you finish building your knowledge base, you can expand it and enhance it with third-party reference data. Okay? And this reference data can come either from Microsoft's Windows Azure Marketplace Data Market. That's a data store for professional data. Previously codenamed Dallas. It's now called probably one of the worst product name in the world. It's Windows Azure Marketplace Data Market. So it's a very catchy thing like Xbox. And there's a bunch of data there. There's data services, there are data sets. There's a data quality store in there that contains domains and knowledge bases that we will put there, or the community can put there once you created those. And you can bring your own. let's say you bought a third-party solution that's already installed on-premise that contains some sort of reference data that you want to play around with, then you can hook it into data quality services. There's a standard API that will provide on what does those web services need to look like, and you can just plug them in data quality. If you bought a solution for address cleansing already, you don't need to use something that's in data market. You can use your own. You already paid for it. Just need to hook it to your domains internally. How do you go about using all that monstrosity? Which is very simple. You have your DQS client, which I've shown you some initial demos of, that you can do knowledge discovery, you can do interactive data quality projects, and data exploration. And there's an SSIS data quality component that's shipping out of the box with a new Denali that does everything that you've seen in the interactive cleansing part through SSIS for those batch jobs that you need to run as part of the data warehousing or nightly flows. So you can build your knowledge base once and then run continuous jobs using SSIS to cleanse your data. Future clients will include a plugin for Excel. You don't even need to open the DQS client. Just take Excel and clean your data right at the source, or SharePoint and whatnot. So this is in a nutshell how it looks like. Again, all part of SQL Server. And since everything is so knowledge-driven and about knowledge and creating knowledge and maintaining knowledge, then where do I get all those knowledge or data sources to put in DQS? So the first one could be data market. Okay, there's reference data services in data market. In a few weeks, anybody who goes into the marketplace, and I'll show you how it looks like, will see a data quality services category with all the providers that we already onboarded there. This is a list that's growing and growing. Right now there's about 5 of them, and the list will continuously grow as we move closer to the shipping and later on. You can bring your own third-party reference data providers. You can take our data store, data that we've put in there, or people who already use DQS and are so happy with what they found, they uploaded their knowledge to share with everybody and get paid for it, obviously. You can create domains from your organization data. And there's an out-of-the-box knowledge in the box. Okay, that list of countries that you saw is in the box. A list of places in the US is in the box. You don't have to buy, you don't have to pay for it. Obviously, it's not as good as a third-party service that is continuously maintained and updated, but it's a good enough start to get data cleansing results very quickly. So let's see how it looks like if I'm trying to combine third-party reference data into my solution. So if you remember from the, you don't have to remember. If you remember from the original data, then I have a list of all the home arenas of the sports team that are being played. Okay? I provide services for those stadiums whenever there's a game or whatnot, and I have the address and the zip code and all the stuff already inside my CRM. And I've been getting some complaints that there are misdeliveries and things are not going as they are expected, and I'm trying to send marketing materials there and they are not reaching, or they are reaching too late because the zip code is not updated or whatnot. And if I'm taking a quick look at the actual data, the actual source data, then I can see that there are missing zip codes here, and probably some of the addresses are incorrect. And I want to clean addresses. At first, I clean the business aspect of teams and revenues. Now I'm going to clean the addresses in the same data source. Now I could go ahead and sorry. Let's close this. I could go ahead and build a knowledge base for address cleansing. But that doesn't make any sense. Addresses, especially in the US, is so generic, so common. There must be somebody out there who knows how to do it already. And actually there is. Actually there is. So if I'm looking at the reference data configuration settings, okay, then there's a data market reference data services that I can go ahead and play around with. It's called Windows Azure Marketplace Data Market. There's a whole bunch of services in there. There's a bunch of configuration that I needed to do, which I'll spare you. I'll just open my lovely knowledge base. And I'll take a look at the composite domain for address validation. As you can see, it contains address line, city, state, and zip. You can change it and enhance it as you see fit. And now I'm going to connect this to a reference data. I'm going to hit the browse button here. And this now goes to data market, downloads the catalog, the reference data services catalog that I'm enrolled into. Some of them need payments, so we need to pre-provide in the data market catalog. Some are third-party providers that are directly connected to the box, and I'm going to choose Melissa data for address validation. I have all the information on what Melissa data is and whether it's fit for my use and all that stuff, and I'm very happy about that. So I'm going to map my data domains into their schema. I'm going to take the address line and map it, and I'm going to take city. Basically, every provider can publish what is it that they know how to fix, and I can choose what to use and how this maps into my own schema. So I did the mapping. This will now go to dqs.datamarket.azure.com, blah, 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 / Melissa data. So any data that will come through that domain, any data that I will map to the address validation domain or parts of it, will now go to the cloud for cleansing. Which is good enough, so I'm going to hit finish and publish this change that I just made to the data, to the knowledge base, sorry. And now let's start a new data quality project. Tech add demo live RDS using the same knowledge base. Again for cleansing. And I'm going to use the exact same Excel file that I used earlier. And this time, I'm going to map the relevant fields for the reference data. So I'm going to map city, I'm going to map state. Now, obviously, if I would have done it once, then the system would have remembered it and saved me the time. But as this is the first time I'm doing it, I'll go about doing it manually. And I will hit next. And now again, I'm uploading the data from the Excel file, and this time this gets shipped into the cloud. This goes all the way to Azure, to Data Market, and from there to, in this case, Melissa data, and doesn't work. How lovely. Let me just bring this up again. Ooh, that is a very lovely thing. I love it when this happens in a demo, don't you? What I'm going to do now is try to restart the entire SQL server and hope for the best. If this would have happened in the 30 minutes that I was playing here, testing it, it would have been nice. I would have got my backup machine up and running, but this time it's a bit too late. So we'll just restart the machine, maybe restart the SQL server, see if it's working. And if not, we'll just skip this part of the demo. Apologies for this. Anybody knows a good joke? Yes. In a sense. What I mean in a sense is that it does not, there's no reporting services built in. So if you want to build a fancy report out of everything that happened, then you need to go out and do it yourself. But it provides all the auditing and logging information on anything that happens in the system for you to go about doing that. Okay, so it seems like it's back up. Let's try and see if this was indeed the issue. Okay, looks good enough. I'm afraid to try. So let's see if this time it works better. No. Something seems to be wrong with the network connectivity, so if this doesn't work now, I'll just skip it. minute. No, this doesn't seem to be working. So I will open an existing project that I should have. Always be prepared. So for some reason it's not working, something with the internet is not working. So these are the results of a previous project that I did 30 minutes ago against a reference data service for address cleansing. Okay, and as you can see, what it did is basically provided suggestions for the complete address. So one center court in Portland was changed into one North Center Court, while one center court in Cleveland was left as one center court. This record in Minneapolis did not have any zip code, okay, but my reference data knew how to find the right zip code and append it to my data. Again, I could have built this knowledge and said, look, Minneapolis, it's this zip code, but I have really no reason of doing that, other than the fact that it's not working. But assuming that it's worked, then everything is good. I have North 4th Street in Milwaukee, and it was corrected into North 4th Street, the standardized form of an address. Okay, so basically this works. And there's a bunch of reference data services already on board and providing services to be used through data quality, and the list just goes on and on. So some of that may be typical address-related things. Some of them may provide a list of all known diseases. Okay, there's apparently a 28,000 long list of valid diseases by the World Health Order. So whenever a doctor manually writes a diagnosis, it can go against that list and standardize to whatever it is the WHO decided that this is a valid disease. Okay? So anybody can build the reference data, publish it on Azure, and be consumed via data quality services. So again, I apologize for the glitch. And we'll move forward. So we talked about interactive cleansing using data quality services, and I also mentioned earlier that there is an SSIS component for doing the exact same thing. So there is. I'm not going to demo it, but just show you the high level of how it works. You can create an SSIS package that takes the source inside the data correction component, maps it to the relevant knowledge base and the relevant domains in it, and then get a clean destination. What do I mean by clean destination? The DQS server will take the knowledge base with all its values and all its rules and all its reference data definition, all of the reference data services cloud integration that there is there will also be accessible through the SSIS component. And in the end, it will provide a list of all records that are new, corrections or suggestions that I found to the records in that package, records that I know are correct, and records that are invalid. And you can use it as you see fit to continue the process. You can say everything that is correct or corrected continues into my process. Everything that's new or invalid or suggested goes to a manual repository for somebody, some data expert to work on later on, analyze and decide what they want to do with it. You can then take those results and run discovery on them and enrich your knowledge base. So in future runs, those things are already known. And the process becomes more and more and more automatic. Back to my earlier point, the more data DQS sees, the more data it discovers, the more knowledge it discovers, the better the results that you have in your projects. So the same functionality can work either from an interactive data quality cleansing project or from an SSIS batch component. Now, we've talked a lot about sports, and I've showed you a report earlier on that shows that a lot of my money is made out of music. And now I'm going to do something a bit different. I'm going to put the sports aside for all those people who don't like sports, and I'm going to talk about music. For those of you who don't like music, then you're in the wrong presentation. And what we're going to do now is we're going to take a look at a file. We're going to take a look at a file that contains a list of all the songs that have been played in those games that I've been catering for. And I have to pay royalties for those songs or collect royalties for those songs. Okay, so I have a list, an Excel file, that contains a list as I received from the different sources. It contains the artist, it contains the song, it contains the home team that were playing that song, so I can go and build them. And from a very, very, very quick look, you can see again that there are some inconsistencies there. There's Alanis Morissette with You Ought to Know and some issues there. there's an occasion Britney Spears and B Spears, which are the same thing. And if I want to group those all together for whatever reporting or royalties in this case, then this is quite important that I get it right. Otherwise, I may pay Billy Spears, who may have a song called Toxic and didn't even know about it. Okay? So I want to do something that we called matching or deduplication. I want to take this list and I want to see all the identical entries inside it. And I'm again going to do it in DQS. This process in DQS is called matching. So I'm going to open my favorite knowledge base, and I'm going to open it for something called matching policy. Now again, the concept holds. I first need to build my knowledge base, train my knowledge base to make sure it has some knowledge in it, and then use it in a project. So in this action, I'm going to train my knowledge base for matching. I'm going to define a matching policy. I'm going to train it until I'm happy with the results, and then I'm going to run a full matching project on the entire source. So what's matching policy in a sense? So I'm going to take an Excel file, a small file called matching sample that contains a short list of artist, song, home team, plays, the same format of the file that I've seen earlier, only a bit smaller. And I'm going to map the artist and the song to the domains. But I don't have any domains because I've never dealt with songs until this moment. So I'm going to create them on the fly. And there's artist, and I will create song. Now, naturally, this is not going to be a very successful matching exercise because there's absolutely no knowledge in the domain. Why am I doing it? I'm doing it to show you that even without knowledge, DQS is smart enough to do some things on its own, hopefully, without crashing. So right now, I need to define the matching policy rules that will govern my matching process. So I'm going to create just the most simple rule. I'm going to say, if the songs are similar, it's a match. Okay, I'm going to give the song a 100% weight in the calculation. I'm going to test this rule. Okay, so now I'm going to run on all those sample records and try to find, with our internal algorithm, things that are close enough in the song. Okay, and actually I found something. Okay, I think that raise the confidence a bit and run it again to make sure I find some interesting stuff. Okay, so I found some things. I found Florence and the Machine, Dog Days Are Over, and The Dog Days Are Over. Well, that's a nice match. It's indeed the same song. I found Don't Cry Tonight. It's an exact match. I found Fireworks and Firework by Katy Perry. All seem good. Let's see what's no false positives here. Let's see if there are any false negatives. Let's see if I missed anything. So ABBA, Dancing Queen, and Mamma Mia are okay. Alanis Morissette is okay. Billy Idol, White Wedding, and White Wedding Part 1. I should have found that, but it didn't because they are too distant to find them. Okay, let's see what else is there. Britney Spears, I'm a Slave for You and Slave for You, probably the same song. So it seems like my policy is not that good. Maybe I'll just make it a bit better. I'll add another field here. And based on the artist. And I'll give 50% weight in the calculation to each of them. And let's play this again. So it's now running on my new rule. Let's go back to the matched. Okay. And again, Katy Perry was here. We saw it earlier. Don't Cry Tonight was here. The Dog's Days Are Over here. But now I found I'm a slave to you and slave for you. I'm a slave for you and slave for you, which is good. And I found those White Wedding. Oh, also good, which was pretty much what I meant to do. Now, I don't need to even remember. I can just go ahead and look at the matching results of the two executions and see how many clusters were found in the previous one that was 3 and the average cluster size, etc. And now there's 5 clusters. And I analyze the clusters, and there's no false positives in there, so everything that the system found is good. And you know what? I'm pretty happy with the results. I think that this is a good enough matching policy for this data source. Okay, so I'm going to hit. Leave me alone. I'm going to hit next. Now, theoretically, or not theoretically, I could have built multiple rules. I could have built a funnel that's very long. First match on this, and then on what's remaining, match that, and then match that, and then match that. Now I have a chance to run the entire policy together. But in our specific example, as I created only one rule, I don't need this. So just hit finish and publish. And again, this was just training my knowledge base. Ooh. Fine. Something is very, very wrong here. Hopefully I should have a matching project already working. It's a good thing it doesn't ship next month. Let's try this one. So now I'm using a knowledge base that has matching policy already in it, so I can use this for matching. Now I'm going to run, hopefully, without any vals, an actual matching project. I'm going to map my artist and my song. And I'm going to hope that it won't crash. So I can look at the matching results and found that it found 12 clusters and whatnot. So let's take a look at what was found here. So it found Alanis Morissette, you ought to know. It found Beatles in the Beatles. I can double click here and see why did it think it was a match. Okay, so it thought it was a match, and this is a very important auditing feature because you always want to test the system that's been suggesting things to you and say, why the heck did you think that this is a match? Maybe somebody put that, I know, Beatles and Britney Spears are identical in the knowledge base, and therefore I produce some junk results. So I want to be able to see the exact reasoning that brought the system into this matching suggestion, into this clustering algorithm. So in this case, the song was completely identical. The Beatles were 64% contribution, all in all resulting in an 82% match, which is above the score that I defined. And there's white wedding and white wedding part 1 that we were hoping to find. And there's I'm a slave for you like that, and I'm a slave for you like that, and a whole bunch of other corrections in there. And the system basically found a lot of entries that are similar, even though it had absolutely no knowledge whatsoever of what a song is and what an artist is, other than saying that it's a string. Okay, so I'm now going to explore the unmatched. Then there's still going to be things like Miss B. Spears here with the song Toxic, and Britney Spears with the song Toxic that the system could not find because they weren't close enough from the algorithm perspective. So that's all fine. But now I've prepared a music knowledge base that's a bit smarter, and it's going to be our last demo. Okay, so all I did here was enter some values. Okay, not that much. I said that B. Spears is Britney Spears, and that Gaga is Lady Gaga, and that Keisha is Keisha, whatever that thing is. Maybe you know better than me. Looks like junk. And Prince is Prince and the Revolution in another name, and that's the only knowledge that I have. I built a very little amount of knowledge into my system just so I have something to play around with. I'm going to run the same matching project exactly. This time on my music. And I already prepared the matching policy, which is completely identical. And I will map the exact matching file. And the exact same mapping. And I let it play. Okay, so already start seeing some results here. Let's take a look. And this time it found it. Okay, once I gave it some resemblance of knowledge that B. Spears and Britney Spears are identical, it found it as a match. And not only did it find it as a match, it found it as a 100% match. Because I said that B. Spears and Britney Spears are identical, Toxic is obviously identical, so I helped the system become smarter. So assume there's somebody who's out there and interested in building an artist domain. You You can just go ahead, download it, import it into your knowledge base. Now you have all the knowledge needed to use artists as knowledge. So what did we see? We saw matching. We saw a process in which we built a matching policy. We trained it. We started with a rule that was not good enough. We trained it to enhance it. We created a magic project around there. And a step that I skipped over, we chose the survivors. I could have let the system choose which records of this cluster I should keep as my survivor. There's a B Spears and a Britney Spears and whatever else Spears. Which one I want to survive? Now, in this specific example, I may not want any one of them to survive, but I can choose and let the system flag for me which is the master record, the pivot record out of that cluster they want to keep. And matching is completely agnostic. I chose the music instead of sports to show you that it can be done on any type, not just on addresses or whatever. It can be done without knowledge, but then it's limited to whatever statistical algorithms and reference data that I have. But once I've put some knowledge, everything gets better and improved, and the results are way better. So to sum up, oh, that's nasty, and that's not even me. So the value proposition for data quality services is knowledge-driven, based on a rich knowledge base, based on a continuous improvement. The more data it sees, the smarter it becomes. The more data you teach it, the smarter it becomes. And you build that knowledge base once, and then you reuse it for a variety of data quality improvements. As you've seen, I've been using the same knowledge base for different projects, different sources, different data. It's very easy to use. You can generate knowledge. You can integrate with SSIS. You can use cloud-based reference data services, and obviously this is shifted around. I'm the worst presenter ever. It's easy to use, okay? You can focus on productivity and user experience. It's designed for a business user. There was no single line of code written here. There's no SQL procedure in here. There's no designer in here. Any user that you want, obviously an IT professional, but any user that you want to be involved in the data quality operation can play around with DQS. And it contains out-of-the-box knowledge for countries, for places, for people, for sports in this specific example. Maybe by the time we release and we have enough requirement for music. And this list will get bigger and bigger as more people are using it, building knowledge bases and exporting them into the cloud for other people to download, either buy or use, and cleanse their data with it. And it's extensible and it's open. You can generate knowledge, integrate with SSIS, makes a lot more sense in this column, and focus on cloud-based reference data services. That's it for me. Now opening to question. Again, thank you very much for coming to the session, and sorry for the crashes and hitches. Yeah, go ahead. Any questions? The client is part of the SQL Server DVD. It just has a DQ, Data Quality Services client in there. Check the box, install it. You can then take the entire library, put it in the network, and have anybody who wants just take the client out and use it. That depends on you. If you want to export the clean data into the SQL Server table, then yes. If you want to put it in a different table, put it in a different. You want to put it in a file, put it in a file. It does not automatically override the source. You need to specify that the output should go to the source, and then it will be overridden. Yes? Will it be possible to orchestrate it against real time at any time? So the system in V1, and I've been getting it from a lot of customers that we see, is not designed as an entry-level system type. It's not designed for you to have a CRM client that you enter a new company and then it goes in runtime and validate against it. In V1, it's not designed to do that. You can cheat in a sense. You can basically create a command line wrapper or a wrapper over SSIS and run it as an executable. But that's the best cheat that you can do at this stage. It's not designed for runtime cleansing, other than SSIS. Yes.
You talked about.
Sorry. Oh, if he's in the microphone, it's stopping. Yes, go ahead.
I saw that you talked about correcting data, and your own model to correct data, there was not a rule that said, okay, this is the one that wins, and this is the one to correct it to. For example, when you used a prescribed model, you corrected B Spears to Britney Spears. Can you have your own rules determine who the winner is and what to correct it to?
Yes.
And can you tie that to a quantity? In other words, the one that has the greatest number is probably the one, and the greatest number of occurrences is probably the one.
So yes and no. Yes, you can define your own set of rules. You can define which is the leading value in any relation and say if you encounter one of those, then correct it to that one.
You have to know the answer.
Yes. You can define a composite domain rule like in the giant example that says, okay, this value should be corrected to this if some other value is that, and should be corrected to this if some other value is that. And there are internal algorithms that know how to choose something based, for example, on frequency. If something is very close and appears 100 times and the other one appears one time, then the system will automatically suggest the more frequent item as correction. But once you as a user specified this is the correction to be used, then the system does not override it. Yes. Yes. Yeah, gentleman with sign shirt. So the question was if you can use what we saw here in SSIS, if you're already using the SSIS to do some quasi-real-time data, the answer is yes, you can do that. There's no programmability API. There's no C# SDK that you can plug into your CRM for real-time use. There is a DQ client or SSIS component. That's what we have in V1. We will consider opening the SDK to public developers later on in the future, but this is for now a point technology. We're more focusing on the technology and the algorithm and the logic than on providing a platform for use outside. Yes?
Are there any plans to possibly export to rules for SQL?
Is there any plan to port? Sorry, I missed the last part.
To make them like check constraints or something like that, so you could build your rules but somehow export to check constraints on SQL?
At this stage, no. You can export and import knowledge and rules and whatever between TQS knowledge bases, servers, domains, but not to any other type of entry. Yes, go ahead.
Rules in a raw format,
So there's a rule editor that you can go ahead and use any of, I don't know, 50 different bigger than, lower than, regular expression pattern based or whatever. The end result is stored in some sort of an XML form in the database. So if you later on want to go ahead and edit it inside the table inside DQ server, you can do that. But there's some sort of a graphical user interface for rule building of sorts. Yes?
it's a very manual process, and then once you correct something, somebody, your users are going to come up with new mistakes, new ways to mess up the data. And I'm just wondering if there's a way to kind of alert when there's a new mismatch or when there's a new data quality issue.
So the question was, once you correct the data manually and continue running it, you're going to find new errors. Is there any way to alert when something is wrong or there's new mismatches? So the answer is basically yes. You can take, assuming that your automatic process is SSIS batched or based, then you can take whatever the system finds as invalid or incorrect, put it aside, and then use those results back into DQS. There's a flow that I haven't shown that's called cleanse to KB, where you can take the cleanse results and run an interactive process on them, and then, oh, these are the errors, let's fix them, add them into the knowledge base, and the next run it becomes better. There's no way to automatically, obviously, correct things that I have no idea about. But the idea is that hopefully everything that is wrong once. Once you've encountered it once, either the system knew how to suggest something manually or automatically, or you go to your data steward, tell them, look, these are the set of records that you need to go and clean manually. They do that. You plug them back to the knowledge base, and you're done. So the system gradually grows. If there's some new transformation that nobody knew about, some new value that you haven't seen, then naturally you need to manually approve it. Again, pending the fact that there's a bunch of logic there that can hopefully suggest something based on data that it already saw because it's close enough. So can you generate a detailed report on what was corrected? So the export of a project allows you to define, and the same in SSIS, which data are you interested? Are you interested in the corrected results only because you want to plug it back into the database? Or are you interested in the entire reason code, confidence, whatever, for any line? And so you can export the full results. Again, we don't have any reporting capability. You need to store that and put it somewhere. But you can export any bit of logic and decision that was decided in DQS is there somewhere for logging and auditing if you're interested in using it. Yes?
Does the knowledge base store the relationship between tables that we can check based on the cluster results?
No, no. Right now in V1, the assumption is the knowledge base doesn't care about tables. It's a list of domains. But the source that you're using for cleansing or matching or discovery must be a single source or a view. So if you're interested in doing that, you need to create a view that combines all the information that you need into a single view and then clean on it. Yes?
Correct me if I'm wrong, you said on a record by record basis, you can get all the data that you need to make the decision.
Yes. On a record by record base, you can get the data that was used to get to the decisions that you just saw. Thank you all very much.